for 2,000 years home of the sovereign state of the Vatican. The city may be eternal, but with one health scare after another, time is running out for the 264th Pope, John Paul II. Cardinals are scrutinising their own ranks to choose the first new Pope in 27 years. One who can stem a loss of followers of the faith.
The repercussion is that if that trend continues, then the people are becoming less and less Christian. Less and less Christian.
Many are choosing sects or other groups because of the weakness of our witness. We need people more engaged with the faith.
The field of candidates might be large, but the morally conservative Polish-born Pontiff handpicked nearly all of them. He has created a group of cardinals in his own image. The possibility the next pope might be more liberally minded is almost non-existent.
If you ask the general public what are the big issues facing the church, many of them would name things like abortion or divorce or birth control or gay marriage. It's kind of the hot button, what we call pelvic issues. But inside the College of Cardinals, there isn't much disagreement on those questions. By and large, they would all have the same position that the Catechism of the Church and the Pope have.
Although they may be conservative in that sense, the favoured cardinals from South America, Europe and Africa, who are front runners for the top job, are men of great contrasts. The two you're going to meet in our story represent some very different approaches to the future of the Church. The Cardinals know that the next Pope they choose must be able to handle two major challenges to the Catholic Church. One is to halt the inroads being made by other religions in the battle for the hearts and minds of believers. The other is to keep the Church relevant in a world where more and more people don't believe in any God. Cardinal Francis Arinze is both passionate about winning over people in the developing world and impeccably connected in Rome, making him an obvious contender.
I just feel that I am myself. If I am more Roman than African, other people will judge. I will not be a good judge in my own case. So let them judge. But I only try to be myself.
The African drummers and dancers who pushed aside the Latin pomp in St. Peter's Basilica a decade ago were a powerful symbol of the Church's continuing shift in influence from the old world to the new. Everybody noticed the cardinal from Nigeria who sat on the papal throne during this first ever synod of African bishops. Could he be the first black pope of the modern era?
I certainly think that Cardinal Arinze could be pope, and I think he would be a very attractive pope because he communicates joy.
For 20 years, Vatican journalist Gerald O'Connell has watched Arinze grow from strength to strength.
His observers, those who are in the Vatican as well, note that he never put a foot wrong. And one of his close collaborators said to me, the amazing thing about this man is that he can say the hardest things to people and yet not offend, because he says it with a smile.
Francis Arinze was born in 1932 in Eziowelle, a village in southeast Nigeria. one of 7 children of Joseph and Bernadette. He was raised in the beliefs of the African traditional religion until he was converted by missionaries.
I was only 9 years old when I was baptized. So you must not think I was a great theologian in the African traditional religion. Then I studied the Holy Eucharist and all the books of Thomas Aquinas, and then I became a Catholic. Not really. I was just a small boy of 9 years.
He trained for the priesthood in Italy, but was ordained in Nigeria. Rome noticed his talent early. In 1965, he was made the youngest bishop in the world. When Francis Arinze first came to Rome 50 years ago, he arrived by train at the terminal station. And to get to the Vatican, he did what most locals and tourists still do. He took the 64 bus. Rome must have felt strange for the 23-year-old seminarian. It was his first time out of Nigeria. He had little money and only a smattering of Italian. And little did he know where this journey would take him.
These windows have seen many generations.
Arinze has risen to be one of the most powerful men at the Vatican. From his office overlooking St. Peter's, he heads the Congregation for Divine Worship, putting him in charge of the prayer life of the church.
We have enough work to keep us at the desk. Everything else, our work, our hopes, our disappointments, even our interviews with Australian Broadcasting Corporate, everything in one. So the Mass becomes the cult event, the event of worship, which is central to my day.
But it was Cardinal Arinze's former position as the Pope's right-hand man in interreligious dialogue that set him apart. For 18 years he was at John Paul II's side as he crisscrossed the globe to connect with not only the world's 1 billion Catholics, but also the other great religions.
You have finished your meeting, or you begin?
We have almost finished. Almost 3 hours more.
In the mid-80s, the Cardinal did the Pope's bidding to organise a controversial gathering of leaders of all religions in Assisi, in the heart of Catholic Italy. It was an event frowned on by more conservative forces at the Vatican.
They stood together in a circle where the Pope was on the same level and occupying the same position as, a rabbi and a mufti and a Native American wearing the Indian headdress and so forth. This was a cause of enormous scandal among the conservatives in the Vatican who saw this as relativism and New Age and just couldn't believe that a Pope would do it.
This experience could be indispensable in coming years as the Catholic Church competes with the rise of Islam. The faithful who worship in this giant mosque in Rome, almost on the doorstep of the Vatican, are a powerful reminder of the competition the Catholic Church faces for followers in both the developed and developing world.
So that mosque in Rome tends to be a tremendous symbol, if you like, of what sticks in the craw of a lot of Christians thinking about their relationship with Islam.
Mario Scialoia is a rare Italian. He converted from Catholicism to Islam. A former Italian ambassador to the United Nations, he's now the director of Italy's World Muslim League.
I don't expect them to be extremely happy to see such a fast growth of a Muslim population in Italy, but they didn't show any resentment for that.
Islam is making inroads into traditional Christian areas with a zeal and energy that cannot be ignored. Vatican watcher journalist John Allen has no doubt the Catholic Church is afraid.
Tremendously afraid. I think the reality is that if you look at the world situation, Islam has about 1.1 billion members, so does Roman Catholicism. Islam is expanding rapidly in a lot of border zones where Christianity has traditionally found itself.
Arinze is prepared to tackle the contest head-on. His approach to interfaith dialogue is straightforward. The aim of the game is more Catholics.
So when everybody becomes a Catholic, the Pope will close that office for interreligious dialogue. But this one for sacraments and divine worship will remain. But we have not come to that day yet. And we cannot arrive at religious unity by force, or by maneuver, or by political arm twisting.
But there's another issue that is preoccupying the Vatican, the loss of belief among traditional Catholic populations in the more affluent West.
Probably 1,000 or 15 years older than Christ.
It's one that Australian Cardinal George Pell, an influential member of the most conservative wing in Rome, knows only too well.
There's a continuous history here.
There is a very, very real challenge for the faith here in Europe, which traditionally has been the intellectual and spiritual motor of the Church. But if there's a continuing radical collapse here in Europe, it will, and there's no inevitability about that will weaken us considerably.
And there's a deep crisis there. And there's a sense that this Pope, just for whatever reason, has not been able to figure out how to talk to Western Europe. And so I think there is a sense that something has to be done about that.
The remedy could rest in Venice, the city that gave the world 3 popes last century. There's nothing more that Italian Catholics would like than to restore one of their own to the papal throne. Here in Venice, the historical meeting point between East and West, they have a rising star. Many believe the Patriarch of Venice has what it takes to navigate the Vatican through what could be stormy waters ahead. Angelo Scola has been a cardinal for only 16 months, but his formidable reputation has catapulted him to the fore.
To me, the problem is to have the courage to renew the proposal of the integrity, of the beauty of following Jesus Christ. That is the problem.
The Cardinals' target? Young people, heeding the call of their city's new patriarch. Thousands flock to church for the Festival of the Madonna to give thanks for saving the people of Venice from the plague. A ritual that goes back 400 years. Now 63, Cardinal Scola cut his teeth running the tough Milan diocese before moving to Venice. A former rector of the Lateran University, his Rome credentials are also strong. His mission? To strengthen Catholic communities, inspire people to return to the faith and to resist those hostile to religion.
He's an optimist at the end of the day. He believes the Church has a winning message and it can get into the street and it can win the argument. And in my experience of politics, optimism tends to carry you a long way. So I think for all of those reasons, Scola is certainly someone a lot of people have their eyes on.
The Scola solution to the Catholic malaise is to support and encourage young men and women back to religion and traditional values. Noemi and Martino Costa and baby Eva could be his model family. Unlike the large majority of Italians, this couple in their 20s embraces Catholicism and all that Scola stands for.
Sì, un po' gli ha dato vita e anche subito ha voluto incontrare i giovani, le coppie, anche eventuali ragazzi o ragazze che sentono una vocazione, molto forte e molto anche sì, convinto, molto a me tocca il cuore quando lui parla.
Sì, una persona eccezionale. Ecco, lui non ci dice di essere buoni, non ci dice di essere composti, educati, di dare un'immagine, come dire, political correct come cristiani. Lui ci chiama a essere innamorati di Gesù Cristo.
The beauty of the man-woman love within the marriage, a marriage open to the life, is a great chance for the person and for the society. Unfortunately, today, many people are confused about that, but the confusion could be overcome only through witness.
While the world watches the decline of Pope John Paul II, the cardinals are trying to decide what is more important for the future. A pope who can reinvigorate the faith in the old world, or one who can gather more followers in the developing world. But there could be a surprise element.
One of the great X factors in all of this is that the papacy has a tendency to change a man. I mean, it's much like when a judge is appointed to the Supreme Court. It's the last job they're ever going to hold. They no longer have anyone looking over their shoulder except God. And so, suddenly, sometimes for the first time in their career, they're free to act in the way they truly think things ought to be done. And it's hard to anticipate what that's going to mean.
The cardinals keep their deliberations to themselves. It will only be when the white smoke rises again above the Vatican, after more than a quarter of a century, that the world will know the decision of their secret conclave. Until then, speculation, let alone lobbying, is a no-no.
I know you don't like talking about politics, but you're as a member of the conclave. Some people say the conclave is...
We leave that one.
You don't want to talk about the conclave at all?
We don't discuss that one.
Now we have the Pope. He's still leading with courage and with very spiritual strength, the Church. So we have to serve him, and then I'm not worried about the future, because the Holy Spirit really assists the Church, and at time the right person will be chosen.
And although Australia's only voter in the conclave is not seen as a contender in the papal race, he seems confident that whoever wins will keep conservative values.
It's a supremely important responsibility, and as I've said to one or two people, it'll be very important we don't get it wrong, and it would be wonderful to get it right.